Welcome, everyone. I'm Greg Gershuni. I'm the Executive Director of the Aspen Institute's Energy and Environment Program, and I'm the co-director of Aspen Ideas Climate. Our mission is to work with people, organizations, and governments to take greater action on solving climate change. It's very fitting to be here at University of Chicago tonight, kicking off our fourth Aspen Ideas Climate and our first in Chicago. For the Aspen Institute, this university and the city are in our DNA. We're celebrating our 75th anniversary this year, and our founder, Walter Pepke, who ran the Chicago-based company Container Corporation of America, worked in partnership with the University of Chicago Chancellor, Robert Maynard Hutchins, to design and found the Institute in 1949. They brought cross-sector leaders out to a little rundown silver mining town, Aspen, Colorado, to engage in open dialogue about what makes a good society. In those post-World War II years, there was much to fix in society, but they focused on how to move forward in a positive way, at a time when it would have been easier to look back in anguish. So let's fast forward to today. The city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, and cities, towns, and states across the Midwest are rolling up their sleeves on climate solutions and setting the standard on pragmatic, forward-looking policy and action. Along with our incredible partners, the Chicago Climate Corps, we've had the honor of getting to know hundreds of leaders from across the city, state, and region to understand the unique challenges and solutions that this region brings to bear. And it's our delight to bring you over the next few days a cross-section of local, national, and global leaders and ideas that we hope will resonate with you and inspire you as much as they have resonated with us. A big thank you to our academic thought partner and host tonight, the University of Chicago's Institute on Climate and Sustainable Growth, and our countless partners and sponsors who believe in the power of nonpartisan dialogue and collaboration. A core part of the Aspen experience is the seminar, where a common reading is Plato's allegory of the cave. There, a prisoner breaks free and makes his way out of the cave and into the light. He's stunned to realize that the shadows he once called reality were just flickers on the wall. Outside, the world is alive. Trees, birds, sunlight, more vivid than he could ever imagine. But clarity brings responsibility. He remembers the others still chained below, mistaking shadows for truth. So he turns and he has to go back into the cave, not to lecture others, but to help guide them towards the light that he's now seen for himself. This is the mindset and approach that we ask you to bring into the next few days. We ask that you shed your biases, challenge your assumptions, and come ready to learn something new, collaborate on a bold new idea, and bring new partners with you into your work. Maybe a company can do a little bit more this year. Maybe there's an organization that you've been on the fence about supporting, where just a little bit of support can make a big difference to a community. Maybe there's a young person looking for career advice whose email or LinkedIn message you could answer. Small actions, when combined, can add up to a big wave of impact. So let's fast forward another 75 years to 2100. When folks gather then, maybe in this room, they'll look back on what we did here. What will they say about what we did today, this week, and over the next few years? Will they see this as a turning point? Was the next gigascale solution born right here, sparked by a shared idea or new partnership? They might ask, did those people who gathered in 2025, us, leave here with a renewed sense of hope and determination, but did they translate that into big positive change? So over the coming hours and days, try to break out of your sector, your silo. Go to a session or a talk or meet people that are in different spaces from you. And remember, this is not just for you to bask in the sunlight of new ideas. It's your responsibility to go back into the cave and help others see what you've seen, learn what you've learned, and begin to imagine what's possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Greg, and thank you to all of you for being here. It's so exciting to kick off the Aspen Ideas Climate Chicago gathering. We are thrilled to host this plenary session here at the University of Chicago and to have the University of Chicago's Institute for Climate and Sustainable Growth as the event's official academic thought partners. We like nothing better than to be a thought partner and a leading one here at UChicago. The Institute is University of Chicago's flagship commitment to confront the climate crisis in a way that balances the urgency of climate action with growth to drive human progress. And for all of the difficult questions that we have to wrestle with, there are trade-offs. There are no easy answers. And having this intellectual approach to understanding the different components and bringing them together to help make better decisions is a hallmark of the work that we are trying to do here and that this partnership is so important in advancing. The Institute and Aspen Ideas Climate share that belief that climate change is the defining issue of our time, and events like this one allow us to come together to learn from each other and share innovative climate solutions. We have a very busy evening for you, which is fantastic, including a governor's panel with Alaska Governor Mike Dunleavy and Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, followed by a conversation between quantum physicist Jeremy O'Brien and Christy George, the CEO of the public-private partnership Intersect Illinois. We'll end the evening on a more lighthearted note with Second City's Kelly Leonard and last week tonight's with John Oliver's writer, Allie Barthwell. So first, I'm delighted to introduce this governor's panel. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer is a lifelong Michigander and served in both the Michigan Senate and the House of Representatives before her election to the governorship in 2019. She's been a national leader in advancing clean energy policy in Michigan, signing a landmark package in November 2023 that sets Michigan on a path to 100% clean energy by 2040. Under her leadership, Michigan is taking bold steps to address climate change while driving economic growth. Her fellow panelist is Governor Mike Dunleavy. Before running for public office, he spent nearly 2 decades working as a teacher, principal, and superintendent in Northwest Arctic communities in Alaska. And Alaska is, of course, an energy powerhouse. It is rich in natural resources and plays a critical role in America's energy landscape. Throughout his tenure as governor, Mike Dunleavy has been deeply engaged in shaping energy policy that balances development, sustainability, and economic growth. I'm very grateful to both of them for making the trip here and to engaging in this conversation with all of us. I'm thrilled that it'll be moderated by our very own Michael Greenstone, who's the founding director of the Institute for Climate and Sustainable Growth and the Milton Friedman Distinguished Service Professor in Economics. He's a top environmental energy economist. He has pioneered research that has truly transformed our understanding of the most critical climate and energy challenges and the policies needed to confront them. But importantly, he also has a deep focus on making sure that that research has an impact in the real world, having served himself as a White House Council of Economic Advisors chief economist and working closely with policymakers around the world. I think in academia, we have too often labored under the misperception that great ideas somehow speak for themselves, and that if you come up with something genius and release it into the world, it will take flight and everyone will soon know of your genius. That is not usually how it works. You usually have to tell those stories yourself and devote time and energy to doing that, and that is why it is so wonderful to have Michael and the colleagues with whom he works on that institute portfolio thinking about the hardest problems and then taking the time to engage with policymakers, to partner with partners like Aspen, and to engage all of you here in discussions and debates of issues that are not simple. These are hard questions, and wrestling with them is how we're going to make progress. So I am really looking forward to this discussion. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Governor Whitmer, Governor Dunleavy, and Michael Greenstone.
Thank you, Kate, for that terrific introduction. As we heard from Kate, the Institute for Climate and Sustainable Growth at the University of Chicago takes as its focus the idea that there's not just a climate problem, there's not just aspirations and growth problem, but both are problems. and that what societies around the world have to do is find a way to balance between those two goals. And so tonight, we're going to discuss with, I can't think of two better people to do it, Governor Whitmer of Michigan and Governor Dunleavy of Alaska, and they're going to talk to us about some of the terrific work they've been doing that is very much in tune with that. So before we get into the policy details, I always think it's good we're in Illinois, we're not in Michigan, we're not in Alaska. I thought it might be good to get to know you guys, and so I did a little research on the internet. And people often get started on their careers in funny ways, and I learned, Governor Whitmer, that when you went to college, this is according to the internet, you were absolutely going to be an ESPN anchor.
Yes, that was my master plan. It worked out beautifully.
And so, of course, it raises the question, did you make a mistake along the way, or?
You know, when I was at Michigan State, I did an internship down at the state capitol, and it changed everything for me. I fell in love with public policy, and upon graduation, took a job with the House Democrats, and ultimately went to law school and served both in the House and Senate in Michigan. And I know my colleague here to my left on this stage also served in his legislature too, so we've got that in common.
Excellent. And Governor Dunleavy, I understand, so I grew up in a city, I've lived in cities my entire life. I understand you worked in a logging camp. I don't know what that means. And is that the typical path to governor, or at least in Alaska?
Well, Alaska's a little different. When I went to Alaska from Scranton, Pennsylvania in 1983, right out of college, I went to a logging camp in Southeast Alaska because I always wanted to experience the outdoors. And then quickly moved north to the Arctic Circle, where I spent about 20 years in rural Alaska in some of the small unpack Eskimo villages as a teacher, principal, and then superintendent. But I don't think there's any one way to become governor, right? I mean, it's just if you've got the itch for public service in one form or another, you pursue it, and lo and behold, you end up on a stage here at the University of Chicago.
It's that easy.
Yeah, just like that.
Okay, I think the students in the back are taking notes. Okay, so I think another thing that we should just get on the table is we live in an incredibly politically polarized period. I was somewhat disturbed. I went to visit my daughter in college last year, or the last academic year. I took her and 6 of her friends out to dinner, and only one of them said they would date someone from the opposite party. And yet, here we are having a moment of bipartisanship. And I wonder if, I think everyone would be fascinated to know what opportunities you see from your own work going forward for Democrats and Republicans to work together. That, the climate problem does not exist just in one party.
You want me to start?
Sure.
Okay. Well, being from the state of Michigan, everyone knows Michigan every 4 years is kind of in the national spotlight because we are a purple state. We're a swing state and often are pivotal in the outcome of national elections. And during my time as governor, I served in my first term with a completely Republican legislature, my second term, the first 2 years with a completely Democratic legislature for the first time in 40 years. And now it is Republican-controlled state House and a Democratic-controlled state Senate. And so in a state like mine, everything that we do, if it's going to last, has got to be bipartisan. So we're always very mindful about building coalitions and making sure that we're working hard to drive an agenda that the majority of Michiganders can see benefit from, whether it is in the budget that I write every year or it is in policy bills that I sign every year. That has always been the North Star. I often tell people I was raised in a household like that. My dad was more of a Republican, my mom was more of a Democrat, but we always knew if we centered our discussions around values that we could find common ground. And so I'm always striving to do that. It doesn't mean it's easy, especially right now. It's even more challenging than ever, and the closer we get to the next election, it will go up every day, but that has been, I think, a North Star and why I've been able to earn the support of the people of Michigan twice in a row, because I do always want to find what that common ground can be.
And do you have a specific example or war story that where people were saying Governor Webb will never be able to do this?
Well, our climate legislation, the The renewable standard that we were able to get done, it was with bipartisan support. It was a coalition that came together, though. It was our unionized workforce. It was our utility companies, our big manufacturers. Of course, it was all of the experts who are on the front line of this work every single day. But all working together, I think, was what was so important. Because it couldn't just pass with the bare minimum. It's got to last. I'm mindful I've got 18 months left. I'm not really counting down, even though it might sound like that. I'm just cognizant of it because I got a lot of things that I want to get done yet. And I don't want this work to end with my time as governor. I want it to continue. It must continue. And so that's, I think, a part of how I have operated these last few years and how I'll continue to.
I think the part on dialogue is how this conversation began is really important, and I do think there's some problems with that. Governors have a lot in common. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, or Independent. I mean, we can sit down and we can talk about for hours about the similar problems we have to deal with: keeping the roads open, keeping the schools going, budgets, et cetera, et cetera. So that commonality allows us to have discussions, I think, across the partisan line. And so. There's a thing in politics sometimes they call cringe factor. When you see somebody, you go, oh, you want to walk the other way. That's not always the case with governors. We were able to have those conversations, and I think that's important, and I do think that's what's lacking. The ability to be able to sit down at your own dinner table and have conversations on a whole host of issues and not try and emphasize the differences and politicize it. I think it'd be one of the biggest challenges going forward for all of us, because that's the only way you're going to solve problems, to be honest with you. As the governor said, in Alaska, we are, quote, a red state. We voted red every presidential election except for 64, which is unlike any other state in the country. But we also have a libertarian overlay. Our legislature is a series of coalitions. We got several carbon enabling bills passed because we all work together on that. And at the same time, Republicans and Democrats support oil and gas production in Alaska because of our history and our resource base. So, again, I think that's the biggest challenge. It's not the particular solution to the issue. It's how you get there to make sure that we as Americans are on the same page and we do everything we can individually to stop what is a growing divide in this country.
And do either of you guys have examples of you're sitting in your office and a group on one particular side of an issue says something like, oh my goodness, that's going to make it much harder.
Every day.
To find. And so what are examples? Yeah. So what would be advice? I think there's a lot of people in the room who are very passionate about making change and may not always realize that there can be unproductive things.
Yeah, I mean, this is, we're free people. We have all kinds of ideas. The goal, I think, is how do you cobble that together, as the governor was saying, to get an idea that most people can get behind. I mean, that's how our system is set up. I would say that, this topic that you're dealing with here today, tomorrow, on climate, where we're going to go in the future, on energy, and how we deal with energy, is absolutely crucial, absolutely central. And it could be one of those issues that keeps dividing the country, or I think there's a real opportunity to bring the country together on a whole host of things, everything from agreeing on permitting windows, what gets permitted, do we all agree on transmission? We all need transmission regardless of how the energy is being produced, et cetera. And so you really have to make an effort to want to get something done together, because it's a lot easier to fragment and not get something done and point the finger at the other guy.
I have to say, in my family, we have thick skin and a short memory. And those are good qualities in this business. The people with thin skin and a long memory, that's who you got to be worried, afraid of. But I think that it's important to continue to try to pull people to the table, even when it gets really ugly and someone storms out. And sometimes there's a cooling off period that needs to happen, but to continue to drive people back to the table. What's possible? I see it within my own political party right now. There's a number of folks who want things to end up perfect, and perfect is often just not possible. But if we're moving toward something that is better, that makes more people's lives better, that helps us live, our values and take that step to prove it out so we can take the next one, I think that that is progress, and I think sometimes that's important for us to remind one another of.
Thank you. The next topic I wanted to turn to is, and this was, at least part of this was, I think, kind of unimaginable, maybe even 5 years ago, but we're like in a period of like wild energy growth. That's not something that I think the people who've been operating utilities thought they would see in their lifetime. Lots of renewed focus on manufacturing. I might throw data centers in there. And then, in parentheses, we could put China, which seems to be maybe one of the few issues for which there's real bipartisan agreement. I guess I wanted to see how both of you are navigating that within your states. I'll start with Governor Dunleavy. Alaska obviously has incredible energy reserves. I didn't know this until I did my internet sleuthing this morning. Lots of critical minerals. I guess I'm not surprised about that. Lots of space. And you're making the point, hey, isn't this it's kind of cool, isn't this a great place for data centers? So I wonder if you could talk about just kind of that broad issue of economic opportunity and energy.
It's the perfect place for data centers. We were bantering a couple weeks ago about, we all brag on our states, right? I mean, Michigan's a great state, Alaska's a great state for different reasons, but Alaska's scale and size, second to none in the United States. It's almost a subcontinent the size of Europe. We used to have 4 time zones. It's just enormous. And the oil, gas, minerals, timber, rare earths that we have are unmatched anywhere, I think, in the country and in some cases in the world. So Alaska's got tremendous amounts of gas, and we're in the final stages of probably one of the largest infrastructure projects on the planet for years to come, and that's a massive gas pipeline project that would send a lot of gas to our Asian allies, but also retain gas in the state of Alaska for the purpose of fueling our bases. Alaska is very much a fort for America. We have a number of military bases in Alaska. We're only 2.5 miles from Russia. Chinese warships ply the Bering Strait. We're under North Korean's missile umbrella. So we see it every day. We're chasing off Russian bombers continuously out of the airspace of Alaska. So we need to fuel our bases. But also for data centers, it's the perfect place. And I'm serious when I say that. It's true that we're far from markets, but in terms of our freshwater reserves, we have 3 times the fresh water of any state in the country. We have tremendous amounts of gas resources. Once we get the pipeline going to finish up with FEED and go into FID here in January and build that thing in a couple years, we'll have gas for 60 or 70 years for our Asian allies and for us. So low cost of energy, large supply of energy, thousands of acres of contiguous land in Alaska, thousands and thousands of acres that could go up for lease or for sale for siting large data farms and Bitcoin operations. And our cool temperatures. Some research says it takes a megawatt to power a data center and a megawatt to cool it. In Alaska, you save on that, obviously, because of our cool temperatures. And so between the water, the land, the gas we're going to be putting into play here shortly, the temperatures, and our position on the globe. As I was talking earlier to some folks, we're 1,000 miles closer to Australia than California is. People think of us just as an Arctic state. We're so far west and positioned really in the North Pacific and the West Pacific that our neighbors are our Asian allies. We know more about Asia than a lot of places do because we have to deal with Asia all the time. And so having that position, having data farms also not just centered in one part of the country, but spread out, I think adds to a security aspect for folks that are in charge and running the data farms. But nonetheless, Alaska's poised for the next 50 years. Michigan is doing a great job now, and I'm not just tooting the governor's horn, she can do that, but when you're looking at what's it going to be like in the next 5 years or 10 years, Alaska, I think, has a tremendous future because of the reasons I just laid out.
So, Governor Wimmer, I have the same question, but I would even put on the table, which you can take up or not, the automobile industry, which, of course, you can't think of Michigan without thinking that. I worked in the White House during the financial crisis. There was constant talk about that. And it's obviously not as extreme, but it feels with the tariff barriers against the Chinese electric vehicles, are we a couple of years away from real trauma in the domestic auto manufacturing business? And what can the state of Michigan do about that?
So when we look at what's gone on with electric vehicles over in Europe, it is a real threat of that happening here in this country. The Chinese are are dominating because the Chinese government is underwriting. They don't have to sell at, they can sell at a loss. And so they are devastating the market in Europe. I was grateful that we saw so much investment and focus on growing our EV production in this country. We've seen the big three in particular, but a lot of companies that have a footprint in Michigan. Almost all companies have an R&D footprint at the very least in the state of Michigan, if not manufacturing. So there is, in Michigan, we tend to say we don't care what you drive so long as it's made in Michigan. But we do know that the world is transitioning. We have to be on the cutting edge of the research. We have to be on the cutting edge of design and manufacturing. And so a lot of that work is going to be done in Michigan. It is going to be crucial that we keep the Chinese from flooding our market the way that they have in Europe. It is going to be crucial that we build up the infrastructure to support this transition. It's going to be crucial that we continue to protect our natural resources and have the energy to do all of these things. And one of the things I'm really proud of that we are doing in the state of Michigan is bringing back online. We'll be the first state in this country to bring back online a retired nuclear facility. It is absolutely crucial if we're going to meet our clean energy goals, which we've got aggressive clean energy goals. But to do all of these things, we've got to have the energy to do that. And so there are a lot of different pieces to that, but it is crucial for the backbone of our economy that we continue to move forward, even when there are setbacks in national policy, that we continue doing this work and that we continue to make sure that we are on the leading edge of what's happening. But there's a lot of work to do in this space, and we have to be aligned nationally and at the state level.
Okay, so next I want to talk a little bit about climate impacts, what the consequences of climate change will be. And as I think many people know, it's warming faster in Alaska than anywhere else in the U.S. But I want to, as I said at the outset, I think what society has in front of it is the need to balance the risks from climate change as well as growth. Michigan and Alaska are probably at the top of the list of places that on net, there'll be individual losses, but on net are likely to benefit from climate change. It's an unpopular thing to say, but it's in the data. And so I just want to say, so you guys have states where that's probably true. Probably Wisconsin, Minnesota, it's also true. It is also true that there are states in the United States of America where there'll be lots of damages. You can think of the places that are hot already, Texas and Arizona and Florida, prone to storms. And then you could go even further, and there's parts of the world where billions of people live who are exposed in really harrowing ways. And I'll just add one more thing. The emissions are the same impact no matter where they occur. They occur in Michigan, they occur in Alaska, they occur in Mumbai. What is the politics of trying to advance, I guess, climate mitigation as well as climate adaptation in a state in the presence of this like super nasty kind of problem from hell?
Well, I'll jump in first here. So, although we're the largest state, we probably have the smallest footprint in terms of carbon being emitted into the air because we really don't have an industrial base like other states do. We produce a lot of oil, we produce gas, we probably have hundreds and hundreds of years of coal as well that we use in a small amount in Alaska, but our footprint is not that big. We don't flare gas in Alaska like other places. We prohibited that by law many, many years ago. And so we become the impacts we feel are coming from other places such as China. I think in 2005 or 2006, the United States and China, we were emitting the same amount of carbon in the air. Flash forward today, the United States is actually emitting less carbon. The Chinese are, I think, at 3 to 4 times as much now as the United States. And so no matter where the carbon is emitted, it's going to impact places like Alaska to a certain extent. So Alaska is a place that's always been able to adjust and change over time. I was telling folks earlier, my family, I spent almost 20 years up at the Arctic Circle. So my family, my wife is an unpack Eskimo lady. We've been married for 30-some years. We've got 3 kids that work at one of the largest lead zinc mines in the world up there. But in talking with the elders up there, they've been incredible at their ability to adapt to all kinds of changes. And yes, is it warming up? It appears to be certainly in the short run. But it's going to be really difficult to talk about climate in 3 minutes because it's such a massively complex issue across the board. A 2-degree increase in temperature is going to cause enormous changes across the world. A 2-degree decrease in temperature would be catastrophic for civilization. And so those type of discussions, I think, we need to have. What are the pros and cons? What are the impacts, as was mentioned? And so the future is going to belong to those places that can change, adapt, and deal with what may be coming down the pike. But it's very difficult to gauge what that's going to be, not just 30 or 40 years out, but even 5 years out.
And I would just say, no one benefits from climate change. I think, well, some people look at the map and say, oh, look at Michigan's in a perfect position. It'll be so good for Michigan in the long run. There was a U.S. senator from another state in our region who said, oh, why should we care about climate? It'll be good for our state. It's not good for anyone. Climate change is not. Michigan is home to 20% of the world's fresh surface water. It is a great asset. Our coastline, I made the mistake of bragging about how long Michigan's coastline is to this guy. In the continental United States, there's no state with more coastline than Michigan. But I would say that it is. It's really, when you look at. So I'm struggling to say this. I've spent a little bit of time on Mackinac Island this summer. And Mackinac Island is a gem. It is in Lake Huron, right at the top of the mitten. Of course, I got to get out my Michigan map. It's right up here. And from the Mackinac Island governor's residence, you can see the Mackinac Bridge. It's a spectacular 5-mile-long bridge. I haven't been able to see it in 2 weeks because of the smoke coming from the Canadian fires. And I share that because I think it is the most salient example of the fact that climate change hurts every one of us, even if you're in a prime position on the globe, as some would look at the map and say Michigan is. We're all paying a price for climate change, which is why our work is so important.
I want to raise that Governor Whitmer passed a bill for Michigan to be net neutral by 2050 in a state that would benefit. So. Okay, we had negotiated for an hour and a half.
We failed on that one.
Yeah, we failed. It didn't work. So we're going to end with a final question for each of you. So at least some of you, I suspect most people under the age of 30 in the room know, there's a rapper called GMAC Cash who released a song where he called Governor Whitmer Big Gretch. So I guess for those of us who are over 30, why did you get that nickname? And if you were in charge of GMAC Cash, would you have chosen a different nickname?
Well, I hate to end it about me, but okay, I'll tell you. I'm named after.
I have a question for Governor Dunleavy, too.
I'm named after both my grandmas, Gretchen and Esther. Grandma Gretchen always said, never let someone call you Gretch. It rhymes with wretch. It's not pretty. And I don't know many women that want big on the front of their nickname. But during the pandemic, when I was getting so much heat thrown my way and threats and everything else, the people of Detroit started calling me Big Gretch because I was standing up for the people. And it was the nicest compliment. I wasn't sure if it was a compliment at first, but my staff explained it to me, and this rapper made a song into it. And now it's like my favorite nickname, Big Gretch. Go figure.
So, Governor Dunleavy, if a popular musician were to write a song about you, I have a two-part question. Which musician would you choose?
Gee. That's a good one. I'm an 80s guy, so I mean, my
GMAC Cash is taken. So.
Yeah. Boy, that's a tough one. That's a great question. I haven't, it's something I haven't thought about. I just hope it wouldn't be Little Mike.
Well, So that's what I was going to ask. And what nickname would you choose?
Well, it wouldn't be Little Mike.
No, but hold on. I have on good authority that you have a different nickname.
I have a what?
A different nickname from your teaching days.
Oh, tell me what it is.
Big Mike.
It is Big Mike, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I was a teacher, and I was a little taller than the kindergartners most of my career. But yeah, Big Mike is, when somebody says Big Mike in Alaska, they know who, they know who they're referring to. So anyway.
I think we should just thank the two governors.
Big Gretchen, Big Mike.
Yeah, there you go.
Big Gretchen and Big Mike.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for those of you that responded. We'll try it again. Good evening, everyone. Oh, that's amazing. Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you all tonight. I have the pleasure of being here with one of my board members, Jeremy O'Brien, the president and CEO of PsiQuantum. It's an incredible time that we are in here on the south side of Chicago. Just last year, PsiQuantum announced that they would start the world's first commercial scale fault-tolerant quantum computer, and they would build it here on the south side of Chicago. And what we know, absolutely. What we know is that that investment will be the catalyst for hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs and millions, if not billions, of dollars in economic investment into our economy here in Chicago, into our economy in Illinois, and ultimately a huge impact to the region. So I'm so thrilled to be here with you, Jeremy. I've spent so much time over the course of the last 8 months that I've been in this role learning about quantum computing and traveling all over the state talking about the investment that PsiQuantum has made. But the very first question that I get, without fault, every single time, is what is quantum computing and why is it important to me? So Jeremy, if you could start, what is quantum? And particularly for this audience, why is it important and why is it a critical part of the answer for climate change?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here. We're excited to be setting up just down the road here at the former U.S. Steel site, and as you say, building the country's first utility-scale quantum computer, which I, along with many others, are convinced that this is the most consequential technology that humans have yet uncovered. And it's a big part of the answer to everything, in particular climate change. This is a technology that enables us to answer questions of huge importance that are otherwise forever impossible to answer. So it's an incredible unlock of a whole new potential. And it's my belief that we will look back on our pre-quantum computing era and ask ourselves, how on earth did we survive, never mind maintain a population of approaching 10 billion people with those primitive caveman tools that we used back then?
Now, for many, quantum can be very abstract, but what are some real-life examples of how this technology could deliver breakthroughs, whether it's in climate change or otherwise?
Yeah, so, broadly speaking, quantum computing unlocks new possibilities in chemistry, in physics, in materials and mathematics. And so one way to understand that is that until we have quantum computing, we are fundamentally constrained to a very small space within a much broader space of possibilities. I usually like to talk about the example of drug discovery, which is not the topic of this conference, but I like it because that's an industry where we know that plenty of resources are thrown at the problem. And we should really see it for the broken industry it is, in the sense that we spend billions of dollars a decade plus to mostly fail to bring new drugs to market. And even when we succeed, they're often underwhelming in their efficacy, often coming with unforeseen side effects, and so on. So why is that? Well, a big part of that story is that we can't simulate those drug molecules. So typically, as well as taking a lot of time and money and being underwhelming, we also don't understand how they work because we can't simulate those drug molecules on any conventional computer that we have today, nor any conventional computer that we could ever build, never mind the molecules that they interact with in our bodies. The reason that I highlight that is just because we understand that industry, because we're all sort of consumers in some form from that industry, and we'd all want more out of it. Shifting to climate change, it's exactly the same story, whether it's battery chemistry, next generation solar cells, ammonia production, green hydrogen production, more energy efficient steel and cement production and so on. It's our inability to understand the chemistry at the heart of all of these things and the materials at the heart of all these things. And I'll give you just two very specific examples, if you like. One is fertilizer production. So currently, the world consumes quite a lot of its energy and natural gas production to make ammonia-based fertilizer using a process that's more than 100 years old. And we haven't been able to improve that process despite a lot of effort going into it, and despite the fact that we know for sure that there's a better way to do it, because there are microbes in the soil outside doing this, not at high temperature, not at high pressure in some industrial energy-intensive process, but at ambient conditions, and indeed getting the hydrogen from water, not from natural gas. So that's one very specific example. Many of us are pretty excited about Pure Lithium joining us as neighbours here. And that's another example, lithium-ion battery chemistry. We don't completely understand how lithium-ion batteries work. There's some chemistry that's going on in them that we don't understand because we can't simulate it. It's very hard to design the next generation of improved technology if you don't understand the one that you're working with. We've done some work in the past with McKinsey tallying up the sort of full impact of quantum computing on CO2 equivalent, and we tallied up 7 gigatons per annum across all of these different applications, which is huge. So yeah, that's maybe the context for quantum computing in climate, and we're, as you said, we're building this system just down the road here, and we're anxious to partner with the whole ecosystem industry and bring about this change as quickly as possible.
That's awesome. Now, you mentioned Pure Lithium, which is an EV battery manufacturer that just announced that they were moving here from Boston. Our team at Intersect Illinois worked on that project, so it was such an incredible honor to have them. But similar to Pure Lithium, you made a decision about a year ago to choose Chicago, to choose Illinois, to make this huge investment. Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose Chicago and why did that decision make the most sense for PsiQuantum?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Chicago, of course, the whole country and the whole world knows about Chicago, but what people might not know so well is that across the university sector, there's, a bunch of world-class universities. We're sitting in one right now. There's 2 big national labs in Argonne and Fermi. This is part of the center of the nation's industry. And indeed, for me, it's so exciting and fitting that the site that used to produce millions of tons of steel per year and built this nation's skylines is where we're building the new generation the foundation of the next generation of industry. And from the governor to the alderman, the whole ecosystem is entirely joined up. Think in terms of partnerships, which is how I think about the whole world. How do we get this done together? We were overwhelmed by Chicago and Illinois from the very first conversation that I had with the governor, delegations coming to us coming here, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is an incredible place to do business, an incredible ecosystem to be part of. And, yeah, I mean, for me, it's just so fitting that when we were talking about the design of that site, I said, well, imagine that it's a bit like a spaceport for intergalactic travel. Only this is a journey on Earth, right? This is about life on Earth. This is about bringing to bear what I believe is the most consequential tool that humans will ever get their hands on, and bringing it to bear on our most pressing challenges, climate being one of them, and then healthcare, and then thereafter, completely reinventing our way of doing things. That's a vision that Chicago and Illinois share, right? Like there is ambition. I said to the deputy governor and a big delegation that came out on that first thing, I said, you guys are winners, and you're winning with or without us, and we want to be winning with you, and that has been the case ever since we signed up to be coming here.
Oh, that warms my heart. Now that you've chosen Chicago, and I'll just give you a few rapid fire questions because it's very important from every Chicagoan to you that you get these questions right. Sox or Cubs? There's only one right answer.
There's only one right answer, and I was once asked about Rangers versus Celtics in Glasgow, and that's a serious question if you're in Glasgow and you get asked that, because your life is on the line, and ducking the question is not an option. I hope my life is not on the line here, but I'm not. I don't feel like I'm qualified to say. We are on the south side. We're setting up.
Yes, correct,
there.
correct.
So.
Very good, very good. All right, one more. All right. What is the appropriate topping for a hot dog? Ketchup or mustard? I know, I asked the hard questions.
I'm going to go with mustard.
Oh, there you go. All right, one last one. I know that we're coming up on time, but if you weren't building quantum computers, what would you be doing now?
That's a tough question because I've been at it for 30 years, and we're just about to do it right here. So I'm pretty focused on that. I always fancied writing a novel.
Oh. Yeah. Would you be writing about quantum?
Yeah, maybe a novel about building a quantum computer.
Very good, ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy O'Brien.
For our last conversation of the night, please welcome comic and writer Ali Barthwell in conversation with longtime creative executive at Second City, Kelly Leonard.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Ali, we have 12 minutes to solve climate change through comedy.
Got it. They said, let's send in the clowns.
All right. So I get asked about using comedy to talk about difficult topics a lot. And one of the things I often say is that people shouldn't use comedy without a license.
Yeah, fair.
Because it can backfire pretty horribly. Your gig is essentially doing funny things out of terrible things.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Oh, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of naps. That's crucial to the creative process. A nap, I recommend it. But really, we want to make sure that we are teaching people something, that we have a clear point of view. Why am I telling you this? Why am I giving you this information? And then making sure that the information is protected with comedy, and we aren't trying to make the information the funny thing. Mm-hmm. It's our reaction, it's our response, it's looking at whatever that information is and finding one weird, tiny little thing that we can poke at and go, what's that all about? Yeah.
We were talking backstage, and we were discussing the fact that a lot of people think comedy is magic, and people are magic who do it, which is not true.
In my case, I think it is, but whatever.
But you had a magic formula you said to me backstage just now about.
Yeah, I think comedy, especially when I was doing improv and sketch at the Second City, comedy is about being present and being honest. And I think for a lot of people, that's very scary.
Yeah.
And they start to get in their head and plan and think, what could I say that is funny? But really the most like engaging, empathetic, draw you in thing is being honest about the situation and being really present of what you can give the other person and what the other person wants. And I think maybe that last part is just surprise and being open to something that can surprise you, something that shocks you, and then being like, yeah, that was fucking weird, and just like going with that.
Yeah. My friend Nir Ayal says, it's not a superpower unless it can also be used for evil.
Sure, yeah.
And I think that's true of comedy, right?
Yeah, I don't know what evil comedy is.
Think about it.
I mean, yeah, well, I mean, I think there are people that want to use comedy for evil, but then it's not comedy, it's bullying.
Yeah.
And like bullying and oh my goodness, okay, we're doing snaps, thank you. But like, there are things that feel like comedy that are not, and I think bullying is one of those things. And I also, you watch certain people that are trying to do comedy or trying to poke fun at someone, and you can tell that they are not being honest, they're not being curious, they're not really expressing genuine surprise or shock at something. They're trying to like elicit the shock out of you, which I think is way harder and meaner to do.
Do you know what you find when you Google Allie Barthwell and climate change?
I can't say that I do.
Okay. You find a 2022 episode of Love It or Leave It, where you appear with climate journalist Molly Taft to discuss climate change and The Bachelorette.
Yeah, okay, so now we're getting to my content of expertise.
Okay.
The Bachelorette. It was actually Bachelor in Paradise because like things were going on the beach and it was a rose ceremony. Well, thank you for nodding. We will get into it later. Yep. And so we were doing a bit on the podcast where Molly would explain something about climate change, and when it got too depressing, they would pivot to me to catch them up on what was going on Bachelor in Paradise. Yep. And I think that's a good formula for talking about difficult things. Again, like, I don't know if we can make climate change hysterical, but we can pivot to very funny, very silly things that can recontextualize or give you like a break. Like a laugh is a release of tension. And so when you have the tension building up, like it's been building for long enough, and then you want to release it with a laugh. I say, like in horror, the release is a scream, and in comedy, the release is a laugh. That's why they're kind of so close. But so, yeah, you want to pivot to something that is fun, to let the comedy be the comedy and let the information be the information.
So let's talk a little bit about what are the superpower elements actually of comedy, right? So I don't know who said this quote, but I love it, which is, the quote is, "The shortest distance between two people is a laugh." Right, that's nice. So connection.
Yes.
Right, stickiness. What are some other elements that you think are superpowers in this field?
I think specificity, being really able to call out exactly what something is. And a lot of times when we see comedy that's not like well executed, it's because it's kind of like flabby and sort of nothing. And I think also like when you say connection, it's like comedy very distinctly is drawing lines at all times of you get this and you get that and you get this and this group over here. Because like the joke that like everyone would laugh at is like not a really good joke. It would just be like, hey, we all wake up and go to work in the morning. Like, well, and then there's someone in the back that's like, screw you, I work nights. It's like that.
Yeah, right.
Like, so you want to be very clear on like who is in that connection with you, who's outside that connection with you, and then being specific in the language, the target, the audience that you're trying to speak to.
I still find it kind of amazing at Second City when we're going through a process and you're watching the show. There's always one piece that hits, And every single night they find that, but it's usually just one piece. Everything
Sure.
else is that sort of scattered laugh. And so I think that also the other thing that people should know about using this art form is like, there's no perfect.
No.
There's no one joke. Someone will be offended by the joke.
Yeah, yeah. And I think comedy is also the art form that ages the fastest. Like some art forms are like, oh, we can hang it in a museum and it will exist forever. And then comedy's like yogurt on a counter. And like after like a day, you're like, somebody get this out of here. But like looking for sort of that piece of comedy that's going to like speak to everyone forever, it's like that really isn't, I don't know if it's out there. Whoever finds it, like, put them in the museum. That's what the painting should be. But I think, yeah, knowing that this is fleeting, the beauty of it is it's only going to exist for like a little bit of time.
So I don't know about you, but I'm getting constant texts about Colbert.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. What do you think about that?
Oh, it sucks. It's bad. Like, I think it's not good because we should have outlets on television, in the media, where a very smart person surrounded by very smart people get to make us laugh about the world that we live in.
Yeah.
Like, and again, thank you. That's not... But again, like comedy is a really, like I said, it's a release of tension. It's an important release valve that there's a lot of things that are going on in the world that are sad and scary, and comedy can be used to help us understand them, and they can be a way for us to look at our response to them. And again, like to take that away isn't in service of comedy. It isn't in service of information. I don't buy that it's in service of something financial, like it's bullying. And again, like, maybe the takeaway can be like one of the opposites of comedy is just bullying. So I don't like that.
I guess the positive side, if I've tried to find one, was that, man, he scares them.
Yeah. I think just being able to stand on a stage, it all doesn't hurt that he's a white guy, so like, oh boy, he can say anything. And tell the truth. And I think for me, something that's always motivated me in my work is finding a truth that either I am feeling or I'm experiencing, and finding a way so that a whole room of people or a whole audience of people can understand it. And that, again, that's that sort of building empathy. I think of a piece that I worked on when I was at Second City. It was a scene of a group of friends where they all take a 23andMe test, and my character finds out she has 0% African ancestry. And it ended up being this piece about how it's really important to me that this is a part of my life and my heritage is really important to me. And we did that all over the country, and for audiences that were like, not on board for radical Black feminist comedy, but they still found the surprise, the emotional journey that my character went on, like worthwhile. So again, like to be able to stand on stage and share a truth about yourself, about the world, I think is so important and has existed, throughout time.
Well, no, so here's another comedy thing, right? So that was a 2-act show that you did.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure that scene was, late in the first act or in the second act?
Late in the first act.
Don't open with it.
Yeah.
One of the things you know about Second City is like you've got certain material that is absolutely great, but it can't, if you lead with it, you're going to alienate the audience and they won't hear you. But once they get to know you and they've laughed with you, they find it easier. And so maybe that's another lesson for folks.
And you have to understand also, I would think about the way that I show up on stage. I'm understanding the audience has certain expectations of me, and part of that surprise is how can I defy those expectations, or if I'm giving them a little bit of what they expect, how can I put my own spin on it? But yeah, you want to, if there's something that you're writing or working through, even when we talk about it at Last Week Tonight, of like at the bottom of the show, we're putting our saddest piece of information because it's going to be hard to dig out of that hole. There's only so many jokes that we can tell to get out of a hole of like someone standing on like a trash barge being like, and this will never biodegrade. And it's like, all right, thanks, good night. Like that's what you have to do sometimes. Thinking about when you're going to say it is just as important as how you're going to say it.
We did the study at Cornell, this was like 15, 20 years ago, where they had us do funny, straight video about climate change, slightly funny, and real funny. Adam Schreck did it. And then they tested with people, and overwhelmingly, the funniest video had the most attention. But it was interesting that the middle video was the one that spurred people to the most action. So it was sort of that light comedy idea.
Just a little, like a drizzle of comedy.
An amuse-bouche of comedy.
Yeah, a light vinaigrette of comedy atop a peach, maybe.
But I think that's an important thing to know, right? It's like sometimes it isn't about going for like the hardest joke on this thing. It's just like lighten the mood. We talked about this earlier, the fact that as adults we just get play driven out of us.
Yeah.
So give people just a little bit of play,
right.
And maybe that'll help.
Yeah, like you can create the world, let people live in it, but also let people leave. That's also very important.
That's our time.